All right, welcome to this month's workshop. We do free workshops every single month. My name is Will Hankey. Thank you so much for jumping on today. Today's workshop is all about Google Analytics and diving into some of the more intricate pieces of analytics and learning some different things. A lot of times people just log into analytics. They look at the pretty graphs. They say, yes, something's happening. We're not exactly sure what or what it means or how to make decisions because of this for our business. There are a lot of things in there that we can do. And I'm going to actually jump into a live Google Analytics account and go through that and just kind of show you guys some things. And of course, if you have questions along the way, please make sure to let me know about that. We do have some free stuff. I got some free stuff I'll give you at the end. And as I mentioned, anytime you have questions, anything like that, there's already some activity in the chat. So if you do have a question, put it into the chat. You can also just unmute yourself and interrupt me and ask me your question. I'm fine with that too. Whatever works. I just want to make sure that it's interactive. I also want to make sure that there's value for you and that you get the answers that you need for this. So let's jump over to my analytics account here and get started. So this is Google Analytics, obviously, for our company, Window Treatment Marketing Pros. And this is what we call the dashboard. This is the home dashboard that you get when you first log in. One thing you'll notice is that it does tell you if there are people active at this particular moment, which in this case there is. And then it gives you some quick stats about just some overview of what's going on. Now, what's interesting is this is only last 7 days by default. In this little box here, you can, of course, change this to the last 28, last 90, whatever you want to do there around getting some different data for your company or for your business. And you can see we've had a nice little jump here at the end of August of some things that we did that caused a little bit more traffic to come our way. Now, another thing that's interesting is in this dotted line, you can see a comparison of, I think this is the previous time frame. So if we're looking at last 90 days, it's also looking at the previous 90-day block as well and giving some information there for that. So some real quick, easy ways to find some different data about your business. Also, you might see some of these spikes. If you ever see a spike, a lot of times those spikes are usually showing up around times when maybe you do a newsletter or if you do a press release, something like that. There's some sort of an event that in a very short amount of time got a bunch of people to click a link to your site, something like that. In this case, for us, this is when I first sent out the notification about this workshop that we're doing. So of course, a lot of people go check it out, right? But then your traffic kind of goes back to whatever it was doing prior to that. So by default, like I said, this is 7 days and you can always change it right here. If we scroll down, we get how do you acquire users? And again, we'll see this big spike on the 11th. That is from us sending out the alert or the email about this workshop. But over time, the other things that you can get here is where those people are coming from. Direct is people physically typing in your URL. This could also be people that have bookmarked your website, if possible, and they're going to the bookmark and pulling it up basically directly. That would be that traffic. And quite honestly, this is a little bit tough to see because the blues are very similar to each other. The second one is organic search. So organic search is somebody went to Google, Yahoo, Bing, Ask, any of those sites and typed in something related to your business, window treatments, Outer Banks. They typed in something like that, and then they clicked on your result in the organic listings. So the organic listings are the ones um, below the paid ads and below the maps, if there is a map section on there. So if I do a search for window treatments, Outer Banks. So we have ads. In this case, look how much room the ads take up, nearly the entire screen. But then we got ads. Then we've got what we call the 3-pack, or this is the Google My Business area. And this, by the way, I've got a webinar that is completely on just how to optimize your business for this so that you show up in this 3-pack listing. And then finally down here, we have what's called the organic listings. And typically you see a couple businesses in here. So we've got Full Tilt. We've got, I think Jonathan said he was in Outer Banks. I'd be interested to know if one of these is you. Full Tilt. Then we've got Sunnyside. Okay, Jonathan is Full Tilt. So you're in a good spot here. Then we also have a mixture of, the bigger corporations, right? Budget Blinds. They're always going to be in the list, but this is a great example of how a smaller business can easily outrank some of these bigger businesses like Budget Blinds. They just don't have the focus to focus in on these small little areas. They're really just kind of using their overall authority to typically be in the list, but this is great positioning. And then we've got some of these business directories, right? Like Houzz and Yelp. They're always going to be in the mix here, but again, not too difficult to push down with some good SEO. A&B Carpet One is in there. Daniel's Home Port, Yellow Pages, Shutterworks and Blinds, and Porch. So we've got about 5 actual small businesses in the organic rankings, along with a couple other, Budget Blinds and Houzz and Yelp, some of these other spots. So that is organic traffic, or where that traffic is coming from. Next is social, which is typically always a pretty small amount there. And you can see, how many people are coming from social media, things like that. Referral is traffic from other websites. So let's say that you are advertising on a local business directory, or maybe you are listed on the Chamber of Commerce website and somebody clicks through that link to your site. That would count as a referral to your site. And then there's other. A lot of times the other is they're not sure how in the world people found you. So there was no data coming to Google Analytics about how they found you. So they just kind of lump that into an other area. Next, how are active users trending over time? So this kind of gives you, how many active users you have, how well do you retain those users? So how often do people come back to your website? Now for window treatment and awning companies, a lot of times you don't really need anything beyond the week 2, because really the focus of your website is to generate the lead, right? To get them to fill out a form, pick up the phone, engage with the chat widget, something like that. And typically at that point, you're going to get them into your sales funnel. They're not going to keep going back to your website. I'm looking at, our window treatment marketing pros, which is a little different, right? We're trying to get people back to the site all the time, putting up new blogs, things like that. And it could be a situation where you're doing that as well. But typically what you want is somebody to engage the first or the second time that they come to your site. Also some information about what time of day people come to your site. For some reason, looks like most people come Monday at 2:00. You know why? Because that is when we sent out the email. So we're only looking at, a short amount of time here. So we've kind of skewed the system because of that email blast that we did. It also gives you sessions by country. For most of you, this is not going to be important because we really only want United States traffic. And quite honestly, we only want traffic within, whatever that is, 50 or 100-mile radius of your location. Eric might have a different different focus for that with retractableawnings.com, because I think you ship them all across the country. So you might be wanting more the entire United States. There are some really cool things you can do with this, by the way, and we'll get into that, but you can drill down into the location overview and see where in the US people are coming from, what section, what city, all that kind of stuff. Very important one here is sessions by device. So this is what device are people using to see your business. Now, for us, a huge portion of our people are desktop. For most window treatment and awning companies, these numbers are quite different. Mobile is probably closer to 60%. Desktop is probably closer to 35%, and tablet being somewhere a very slight runner-up at 3-5%, something like that. Mobile is typically the one that most small business owners focus on or should focus on. And that's why the importance of having a mobile-friendly site needs to be at the top of your list. Make sure that it changes as somebody changes their screen, from side to side. Make sure that changes as well. And that's called responsive websites. Everybody pretty much has responsive websites nowadays, but every once in a while I still see one that was built quite a while ago. So very important to know this. Now, the other reason that it's important to know about these sessions by device is if I go back over here to this search, window treatments, Outer Banks, North Carolina, a lot of mobile users make their decision from this 3-pack. Mobile users do not always go down to the organic results. So if your business is not listed locally in this 3-pack of results, you're likely going to not get a ton of traffic. It's amazing how many people will engage with a business right from this. And on mobile devices, it may be even that they'll click. So they'll have a couple extra things here where they can actually just click to call you straight from this listing. Mobile users may never even visit your website, right? So that's why that is very important. And this gets into making sure that your Google My Business listing is claimed, that you have some reviews here. In this case, Jonathan's got 6 5-star reviews, which is awesome. Sunnyside has no reviews, and Budget Blinds, 1 review. So great job being in here. I would definitely work on getting more reviews and just keep building that number bigger and bigger, so that as if one of these guys starts some sort of review campaign, that they don't overtake you there. So, all right. So that is mobile. The other thing I should say about mobile is I'm on a desktop computer right now looking at these results. Google has actually separated into basically 2 Googles, if you want to call it that. There is a different set of results for mobile searches for mobile devices. So if I do the same search, window treatment, Outer Banks, NC, on my mobile device, it's likely I will see different results. Hopefully I'll still see these, full tilt in the 3-pack there. But if Sunnyside, for instance, doesn't have a mobile friendly website, it's very likely that they won't even show up here in the number 2 spot. They might not show up at all because they're not in the mobile index for Google. So it's very important, again, to have that responsive theme and make sure that that is working correctly. Now, next is what pages do your users visit? We're going to dig a little bit more into this because this can be pretty interesting too. But for us, the slash just means homepage. And that makes sense because that's where we're driving a lot of our traffic. That is what we have SEO'd our site for, right? A lot of people just come to the homepage. The second page is setting up a strategy session with us, contacting us, and then we start to get down into some of the nitty-gritty pages. Here's a blog post. Here's our services page. Here's our podcast page. Things like that. But you can see how the numbers start to dwindle off as far as how many visits in this particular time frame. This is the last 7 days. Lastly, how are you performing against your goals? We'll go into goals a little bit here. And as you can see, ours are not completing out correctly, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. So this is called your homepage default dashboard. Now, over on the left, there's a couple things here under reports. And before I go into this, I need to let you know that there are actually two Google Analytics platforms running right now. So probably 4 months ago, Google came out with what they're calling GA4 or Google Analytics 4. Very new. Most people have not navigated or kind of moved over to that system. So I'm using what we call Google Analytics, Universal Analytics. And this is the one that's been around for several years and what most people are familiar with. And if you log into your analytics, most likely you're going to see these things on the left. Probably in the next 6 months to 1 year, everybody's going to need to start moving over to GA4. We've already started moving our clients over to that system. And you can actually run both systems at the same time. So it's not like you're going to lose all your data when you move from one to the other. But for today, I'm going to go through the Universal Analytics system because that's what most people are still using. A year from now, when I do this webinar, we're probably going to be talking about GA4 at that point. So on the left, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different main areas of things we can look at. First is real time. So this is what it looks like at this very moment on my website. So if I go to real time and overview, I can actually see people who are on my site, what they're doing, where they're at, and where they've been recently. So 16 minutes ago, we had somebody on. They looked around, 11 minutes, 9 minutes, and then nobody here. So if somebody wants to pull up a browser and go to WTMarketingpros.com, we'll actually see you pop up on this list. It really is real time. Now, by real time, I mean there's probably a 20, 30-second delay. But typically, it actually shows you. So there's somebody. And let's see, somebody's on the home page, and they are in St. Louis, in Maryland Heights. So that's in the St. Louis, Missouri area. So there we go. We can see somebody on the site. Now, if you're on here and that's somebody here, you can go to a different page. There we go. And now you can see that person went to the contact page. So you can actually watch people live. I don't know if there's a ton of value in this for business owners to make decisions from, but it is available, right? It is pretty cool to see what people are doing, where they're bouncing around from, and where they're at in the country as people do it. So thank you, whoever did that. On the left, again, there are some more information. There's location, there's traffic sources. So it can show you how they came in. So this person actually typed in our URL, WTMarketingpros.com. So it counted that as a direct source. Now, that's really all there is to say, quite honestly, about the real time. It's fun to watch. Don't know if there's a ton of value there for business owners. So let's move on to audience. And this is one of the bigger ones. So under audience, we have a bunch of things here, but we're going to start with overview. So by default, again, it gives us your last 7 days. And this is your traffic information about it. The first thing I typically do when I get to these internal pages inside of analytics is I change the time frame. And the way you do that is just by clicking on the dates and then choosing an earlier date. So let's do August 1 through yesterday. You'll also notice I can choose today, but Google Analytics tends to be 12 hours behind when it comes to having good data for reporting. So typically what they do is they always default you to the previous day. So I'm just going to leave it there, and I'm going to hit apply. And now we can see that we turned our analytics on for this. We actually changed over at the end of August from one system to another. So there's no data prior to that. So kind of silly to even look at that. So I'm going to change this to September 1 through yesterday. So there we go. Now we've got a good chunk of data. We've got what, 45 days, 43 days, something like that worth of data. And we can see, yep, traffic every day. Oh, we did that newsletter. It really spiked up and bounced back down. Now, one thing that I can do right here on this audience overview screen is I can make some notes. So this little tab right here bounces down, and then I can create an annotation. So I'm going to create one for that was the, what was that, the 11th, right? So I'm going to choose the 11th, and I'm going to do sent out newsletter. Save that. Now I have a little note there. If I come back to this later, I'll have this little thing here, and I can see, oh, what happened that created that, right? Now, if you see one of these and you don't know what created it, that's a different scenario. But for the most part, you're going to know what caused some sort of spike in your system. So now we've got a decent amount of information here. We can get some data about the people that visited the website. Really what we're interested in here as a window treatment and awnings business owner is we're interested in pages per session and average session duration. These are probably the two biggest ones here. So pages per session is how many pages on average did people in this time frame look at. In our case, 1.42. For most small business owners, this number we really want to be around 3. That seems to be a really good average number. That means that there's enough information on your site. People are able to find things. One of the ways to really increase this pages per session and the session duration is with galleries and with before and after galleries or different room galleries, and obviously product galleries as well. People love to look at window treatments and awnings. They're very visual things, right? They want to kind of picture what it could look like before they call, before they, so they have some sort of information or some sort of idea what they're talking about before they call, right? Pages per session, we want that really to be around 3. And then average session duration, same thing. We want this to be 2 minutes plus. 2 minutes would be fantastic. As you can see, ours is around 1 minute, but we don't have all kinds of picture galleries and all kinds of other stuff like you guys would, right? So 2 minute average session duration is a good goal to go after. Obviously, the higher you can get this, probably the more information you have on your site. And as you continue to build your site bigger and better over time, this number will continue to grow as well. Those are the two big ones that you can look at here. Now, from time to time, I do get questions about bounce rate. And bounce rate is basically how many people came to the site and clicked the back button within about 6 seconds or less. So in this case, 80% of people did that. And that sounds really bad. And that is a very high number, right, for a bounce rate. But this is an overview of all users, all pages on the site, right? So there's probably some pages on our site that people are stumbling on that they don't really, that we really don't qualify as a result for them to be looking at anyway. Now, when we start drilling down to specific pages, like let's say our exterior shutters page, right? That page is most likely going to have a lower bounce rate because it makes more sense. People are going to Google or typing in exterior shutters, Outer Banks, North Carolina. Full tilt comes up. That is exactly what I'm looking for. I'm going to click, I'm going to stay on that page. I'm going to look at it. So the internal pages tend to have a lot lower bounce rates versus something like this, which is really just an overview of all the different all the different pages on our site. So I'm not terribly concerned about an 81% bounce rate at this level, if that makes sense. All right, let me jump over and make sure there's no questions. If you have any questions, put those in the chat. I want to make sure that I get those answered for you. All right, I don't see anything over there. So you also get some other information here around language system, operating system on mobile devices, what language they were set their browsers to by default to look at your site, most people are obviously English. This is pretty much going to be the case across the entire, across everybody that's probably on here, right? So some other things that are really important here. If we click on audiences, we can see some different information if it's filled out, which it is not. And this kind of reflects back to setting up goals, which we'll talk about in a minute. But you can start to build out separate audiences for cold traffic or people who pick up the phone, things like that. And this is all related to the demographics area in the under the audience part of analytics. So if you click on overview under demographics, the first time you click on this, it's probably not going to be turned on. So you're not going to get a screen like this. It's going to say, do you want to turn this on? Yes. And then it will start filling in data. So if you guys are looking at this on your systems live, this may not be starting to fill out. But we've had ours on for a couple of years. So we've got some really good information here, right? Most of users for us, 30% of users are between the ages of 25 and 34. We can also see male versus female. Always surprised by this because as I tend to think window treatment companies are predominantly female, and that's not always the case. But anyway, some kind of generic information here around users, and then of course you can drill down a little bit further into these and get age, how long somebody, so the 25 to 34, which is what most people visit our site. You'll also notice that their session duration on average is 4.5 minutes, right? So this demographic for us is definitely spending time on the website, as are the 35 to 44. So we could really say 25 to 44, spending a lot of time on our website. 65 plus, 15 seconds, right? They're not spending hardly any time on the site. Now, it would be interesting for you guys to look at this and see how yours is different as a window treatment company or an awning company. If that tends to skew older, obviously for us, people are looking for marketing a little bit earlier on, but as you're selling these items, it may skew towards the more affluent, therefore typically a little bit older crowd. I guess an easy way to say that, right? And then you can always go down to gender and see, does this match what you think for your business? Is it mostly males calling, females calling? Is it pretty 50-50? How much time do they spend on the site? Again, look at this. Males spend just under 2 minutes. Females spend over 3 minutes on our website. So interesting there as well. You can also go to interests and see what other things people are interested in that are engaging with your company. And these are categories that Google has put together. But this becomes kind of interesting if you want to start doing some Facebook ads, for instance, or Google ads. But what kind of person is typically engaging with my business? Well, these are typically beauty and wellness, food and dining, whatever things are here, right, listed for your business. They're obviously going to be different for you, but this starts to let you know what kind of people, just as a generic overview, an avatar, if you will, of a person. What are they interested in? What are they doing? That kind of stuff. Next down here is geo or geographic, and you can get into language, which is probably going to be English for the most part, and then location. So this is the same one that we saw at the dashboard level, but some really cool things here. We can actually click into the US, and now it starts to give us data about where in the US are people coming from, and the darker, the more people. So for some reason, we get a lot of visitors from Virginia. Texas is at 71, California at 56. So I can click on one of these, 56. In Texas, and I can start to see where in Texas people are coming from. So if you're selling obviously very locally, this would make a lot of sense to you, right? If we're in this area, where's Houston? Is this Houston over here? I'm not 100% sure. Okay, Houston, yeah. So Houston, as it comes to Texas, I can scroll down here now and see where in Texas are people coming from? A lot of visitors from Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, and then it kind of tapers off after that. So if you are selling in the Houston area like Henry, it would make sense that the Houston number was the biggest number across the board. And then again, you can start to look at some of these things we talked about earlier. Session duration. For me, it's 3 seconds, but for you, hopefully it's 3 minutes, 2 minutes, something like that. Here's our pages per session. How long are people in Houston spending on the site, right? So now we're getting some really deep data related to our business. Now I can actually click on Houston and get a little bit more information sometimes about where they are, how many of them were new, how many of them came back, that kind of stuff. What is the bounce rate of people in Houston that are visiting my website? Again, at this point, you would expect this number to be lower for you, but it's a really cool way to get some great data about your very local area and where people are engaging with your business locally. Now, if you're selling a ton of stuff locally, like most of you are, you're probably going to have a lot of these little smaller dots like this, which are little towns inside of the Houston area that makes sense. So you'll have a bunch of those around your big municipality, your metropolitan area. All right, I'm going to skip behavior and go to technology. This is obviously just around what are they using to visit your website. Most people for us are visiting from Chrome and then Android, which is kind of interesting. I would say for window treatment and awning companies, this is more likely going to be Chrome and Safari or some sort of an iPhone related web view, right? For that. So anyway, there's some browser information there. Under mobile, you can go to overview. This is the same data that we saw earlier. Desktop, mobile, and tablet. And you can see tablet is 1.68% of all of our visits. And these numbers are generated because of this time frame here. So we're looking at 45 days worth of time in this case. So they're going to change a little bit, but it does give you the percentages of those. Now, one thing we can do in the top right here, when we're looking at September 1 through October 13, one thing we can do is click this compare to button. And then we get a couple options. We can compare that to the previous period. We can customize compared to a specific time, or we can compare it to the previous year. So same time frame, but a year ago. Click apply, then it shows you basically the change from a year ago. And so now we've got blue, which is last 45 days, and then orange, which is a year ago during the same time frame. Now we get some really cool information, right? In that time frame, desktop users have increased by 16% for us. Mobile users have increased 118%, and tablet isn't also ran, right? You pretty much nobody is doing anything there. Not many people are using tablets, which is surprising. But now you can start to compare data of two different time frames to see what's working, how were we doing a year ago versus what we're doing now, and obviously, make some decisions because of that. So I'm going to leave that on, and then we're going to bounce down here to acquisition. So we went through audience. I'm going to close that, and now we see acquisition as the next main area for our business. I'm going to click overview, and acquisition is how did people find us? So out of all the people that came to our website, how did they find us? A lot of people for us typed in our URL. Organic search is second. Social media, 16%, and then referral traffic, which again is links from other websites back to your website. So for us, this would be something like WF Vision magazine or the Chamber of Commerce, those sorts of things. And since I have the compare turned on, it's also giving me that data from a year ago. So you can see our direct traffic has changed. It has doubled, which is pretty interesting. Organic has actually gone down a little bit. So some interesting data you can get there. Now, under acquisition, you'll notice that this all traffic has a little bump out of its own. And probably the most important thing that I look at when I'm looking at analytics for a client or for ourselves is this source medium. So acquisition, all traffic, source medium is where we're at. And this is telling me where people are coming from that are finding our website. So we talked about direct being, 584 visits versus 190 a year ago. And then it starts to separate out some of the different channels. So we've got Google Organic, which is actually down a little bit from a year ago. That's interesting. Next, we have l.facebook.com. L is local. So local Facebook. We can see that that is way up for us. m.facebook is mobile. So that's people looking at Facebook on a mobile device and then clicking over to your website. Typically, this is because you're running ads or you're sharing blogs related to your business, related to your website, things of that sort. That number really hasn't changed. Now we've got Bing Organic. And a lot of people say, who cares about Bing? But Bing is really important for window treatment and awning companies, again, because of the demographics. It tends to skewer to an older crowd, and an older crowd tends to, when they get a new computer, Bing is the default search engine. Microsoft Edge is what's already loaded in. They tend to stick with those and use those as their search. They don't necessarily import or pull in Chrome, install Chrome, and use the Google system. So it's interesting to see what those numbers are for you, and I would expect Bing to be a little bit higher there. Clutch is a referral. It is a website that sends traffic to us, and we can see that one is down. Regular Facebook, or what we would call desktop Facebook, I guess. Then we've got Google CPC, which is cost per click. This is Google AdWords system. We're not running a ton of ads, so it makes sense that there's not a lot of people coming from that. Then we've got Baidu, which is another search engine in a different country, quite honestly. So I'm not really worried about it, even though it has an 1,800% increase. That's awesome. But it doesn't matter because it's not necessarily the traffic I want. And actually, if you look over here at how long they spend on the website, no time at all. So kind of silly to even have them in there. And then we've got DuckDuckGo, organic traffic from them, 0 versus 8 this year. DuckDuckGo is kind of an interesting character because they do a lot more with privacy, and I've seen people moving over to that system versus Chrome or Microsoft Edge, something like that. So I'm not surprised to see them in the list. I'm also not surprised to see the very small amount of traffic that they're still sending to us. 0.76% of our traffic came from DuckDuckGo. But this is my favorite because you can start to see source medium there, which is pretty interesting. Now, the other thing you can do here under primary dimension, I just left it as the default, but you can actually just look at medium, for instance, which will lump all of the different ways people can find you. It'll lump them all together. So earlier we saw Google Organic, then a little bit later we saw Bing Organic, then a little later we saw DuckDuckGo Organic. This lumps them all together. All of those people came from organic search to our website. All of these people, no matter what the website was that they linked to us, all of those people are now lumped into this by clicking on this medium option. And we also have none. So none is when a person comes to your website, sometimes maybe they're using incognito mode, right? Or they're just not sharing their personal data. It could be public devices that have that turned off, something like that. So Google just lumps all of those types of visitors under none. And it doesn't really help us because we don't honestly know which one of these below they actually came from, but they're just all lumped together, and it's not unusual to see them typically in the first spot with the most traffic either. So now we've got CPC, which is our advertising. Obviously, we haven't run very many ads. Now we also have emails showing up in this. So if you're doing newsletters regularly and you are adding an email attribute to each newsletter that goes out, if you're using a system like MailChimp or Constant Contact or our system, Lead Boomerang, you'll start to see them in here. And then here is Facebook with not much traffic coming from that. So you can start to see how they lump them all together. And you can also do this by source. So this will be Google, Facebook, Bing. So it's sorting them out by source, not necessarily by whether it was paid or organic. And then you can also click on keyword. Now, in most cases, you're not going to get this information. Google has taken away all the keyword information, and they did this years and years ago, where they used to share what keywords people were typing in to find you. They don't really share that information anymore inside of Google Analytics. You can get that information if you're running pay-per-click ads. You can also get that information from Google Search Console, which is another free tool. We're not going to cover that today, but that does give you some of that information, what people are finding when they click on, when they see you in the results, things like that, how many people click, what different keywords you're ranking for, those sorts of things. So back over on the left, Google Ads. If you are running Google ad campaigns, you can, again, connect those up to this system. I'm not running a ton of ads, so I don't have a lot of this set up. But if you're running ads, you will start to see a lot of different data in here. How many people are coming through the site? What pages are they looking at where you actually ran an ad? And how are those people looking at your website compared to somebody who is maybe coming from organic, right? So you can kind of start to compare those two different types of visitors and see what they're doing, where they're coming from. And there's some really cool information in here, keywords, which will show up because these are paid ads that you're paying for those keywords. Hour of the day. This might be interesting if you see that you're getting really no paid traffic from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. It may be best just to turn your ads off during that time. Don't even waste the money. And that concentrates your ad budget more to the hours when people are actually engaging with your business. Search Console, as I mentioned earlier, this is, again, when you click on this the first time, it's going to say this is not turned on. Do you want to turn it on? Yes, you do have to have a Google Search Console account, and you have to have your website claimed. And you would do that at google.com/webmasters. Get started, and then go to Search Console. Now for us, obviously we already have it, so it starts to give us some different information about our website, how it's working together. But all of that can then be sucked into Google Analytics, so you don't have to go to two separate websites to get this information. Now, some really cool things that are happening is it starts to show you what content are people seeing when they come to my website. So by far, the number one is this price war, which is a blog article of ours. Number two is an article about the BBB. Number three, boosting a Facebook post. Now you can see that this one was actually, all of these were posted well over a year ago because we have last year's data, right? Now this one, important SEO metrics to track. You can see it has no data from last year because we didn't post it until after that time frame. So just so you can see the difference in there. But typically, this is not unusual to see that that's basically double what it is a year later, right? Because when you put up a new blog post, you tend to send it out to social media, share it in different places. Google also has something called the freshness algorithm. So the fresher the content, the more likely it's going to rank a little bit higher and show up in the Google index for different searches. As time goes on and stuff gets stale, they show it less and less, which is a perfect opportunity for you to go in, check out this content. So this boosting of Facebook post was really popular a year ago. It might be worth us going in and freshening up this content, making it better. So not changing the content, but just making it better, adding to it, making it longer, making it, provide more value for the user. And then we might see that one really kind of bounce back up. So if you have some different pieces of content in here that you want people to see, and it looks like it's getting a little stale, it's definitely worth spending some time to freshen that content up. And then we have some other things over here: countries, devices, queries, things like that. Not going to spend a whole lot of time in there. Social is exactly what it sounds like. Social media, what people are using when they come to your website. These numbers are typically pretty small because social media doesn't tend to drive people to websites, especially to engage with your website, or to, most people on Facebook are looking at grandkids and cats, right? They're not necessarily looking for a window treatment or an awning company. Now, if you're running retargeting ads, they were at your website, then they start seeing your ads in the Facebook feed. That's an opportunity to get somebody back to your site. Oh yeah, I forgot. We were thinking about doing the awning on the back deck. Here's an ad. Let's click on it. Right. That kind of traffic makes more sense from a conversion standpoint. But typically, social media traffic doesn't send a ton of valuable traffic to your business. But nonetheless, it is in here as a way to acquire customers. All right, so that is what I'm going to share with under acquisition. Next is behavior. So this is how people behaved once they came to your website. And first we'll click on overview. Get a little bit of information, but I want to drill down on this pretty quickly. So again, this is a lot of these charts are the same because it's the same data. What we're really interested in is some of these internal things here. For us, we saw this information earlier, right? The homepage was the most visited. Then our strategy session page was the second most visited. And you can see the increase here from last year. But I'm most interested in some of these internal ones. For me, site content, all pages. So that's the same thing that we were looking at in a minute ago. It gives me more information about it. So most people for us came to the homepage. Unique. So 345 people total looked at our homepage in this time frame, which is September 1 through yesterday. A year ago, that number was 316, almost the same. So an increase of 9% from a year ago. Unique page views is how many of these 345 people were unique. 303 of them were, meaning that 42 people came back a second time, right? So they were not counted as a unique person at that point. They were counted as, they were already lumped into that first one. Average time on page. Now this is for the home page, minute 33 versus a year ago, 2 minutes 57, right? So that's probably something we need to look at. Why are people not spending so much time on our homepage? How many people came in? So entrance is meaning this is the first page that they saw. So that is their entrance into our website ecosystem. And then of course, exit is the same thing. How many people of this 345 was the homepage, the last page they looked at? 61% of them were. So this is important because we want people to land on the homepage and then we want them to go look around, right? Same for you. You want them to look at the products. You want them to look at the gallery. You want them to kind of poke around a little bit and eventually pick up the phone, click the chat widget, something like that to engage with you. Our strategy page, huge increase in the amount of people that clicked on it. But again, they're spending less time, which is interesting. A lot of people came directly to our strategy page. This is because we added it to our newsletter and to our email signature. You want a strategy session, click here to sign up. People are clicking on that because of those extra little places that we've put those links out. So it makes sense that more people are coming there. So for window treatment companies, what you want to see here, or awning companies, you might actually see your homepage as the third or fourth result. And that is actually a good scenario. So as you optimize your site and you build some of these internal pages that are very specific. So for instance, Jonathan's exterior shutters, outer banks, right? That if he builds a page specific for exterior shutters in the Outer Banks area, then somebody who types that into Google, clicks that link, lands on that page, very likely to be a warm lead and likely to engage. So those internal pages should be more popular. They should see longer time on page, and they should ultimately push your homepage down from being the most popular page that people visit. Homepage should probably still be part of their visit journey, right? Along with your About Us page. A lot of times you'll see About Us in this mix as well, just because even if they landed on the exterior page, they're like, yeah, this looks like what I need. They might be likely to click over to the About Us page just to see, okay, yep, this is a local company. Looks like it's family owned. They're right here in town, that kind of stuff. So it's part of their journey. It's part of their decision process before they pick up the phone. But don't be upset if you don't see your homepage in the number one spot. The other thing I'll say here is if you do see a blog post in the middle of this, so we've got our main pages here, right, that we think everybody's going to visit. And then all of a sudden we have this blog post, boosting a Facebook post. If you have a blog post that shows up in this list, especially near the top, in my case, in the number 4 spot, fourth most popular page visited on our site, that's a flag to me to improve that content some more and maybe share that a couple more times. If people are spending time on this, look at the time, 10.5 minutes, 7.5 minutes. Our audience is definitely interested in this information. So it makes sense for me to make it better and get it out there to more people. So if you do have a blog post that shows up early in the list, definitely pay attention to that, optimize that content, and improve it as much as you can. Also, site speed from the left menu. I'm going to click on overview. Probably 3 years ago now, Google said site speed is a very important part of people having an experience with your website. So it's important that your site speed be very low. So check this out. A year ago, our website was not performing well, 27 seconds to load. Now that was probably some broken images or something where it just tried to load them. It couldn't load them, right? Versus 9 seconds now, which is actually still pretty high. 9 seconds is a long time. That's because we've got some embedded videos, things like that on there, but huge increase, right? And this is something that Google pays attention to. How long is it taking for your server to connect to that person? How long before the server responds back to that person? And this does influence your overall rankings. You can also get some browser information about what browser people are using when they're having page speed related issues. And we see that it was Microsoft Edge a year ago versus basically no problem this year, right? So definitely pay attention to site speed. Google also has a tool called Page Speed Insights. This is a free tool from Google where you just put in your URL here and it will give you some information about how fast your page is loading, how fast your site's loading, things like that. All right, the last button over here on the left is conversions. And this is where we can start to set some different goals for our website. Now, some good goals for us might be people picking up the phone and calling us, right? Setting up an appointment, something like that. I'm going to switch over to one of our clients so you can actually see the goals in action here. So we've got a couple different goals set up for this client. We've got appointment set, phone call. Let me turn off the comparison because that's a little confusing there. There we go. Now, so we've got how many people filled out an appointment, how many people picked up the phone and called from Google My Business, how many people picked up the phone and called us from the website, how many people filled out the contact us form, how many set an appointment, how many wanted to download the Hunter Douglas catalog. So you can start to set up these different goals for your business. And obviously the big ones here, right, are set an appointment, call us, and then separating those out by how they call you. We could even add in another one here for phone calls from pay-per-click advertising, right? We can show different phone numbers on that side as well. But start to get those goals and then obviously know if they're working. Now we can start to compare. Okay, so this year in this time frame, we got 208 phone calls from Google My Business. How many did we get a year ago in that same time frame, right? So you can start to kind of compare those and see what's working well, what's not working well. Well, a year ago, we weren't really doing anything with Google My Business, so it makes sense that these numbers are way up, that kind of stuff. So this is under Goals Overview. And the way that you set up goals is all the way at the bottom under Admin. On the right here in this third column is Goals. And this is where you would set up your goals. And typically, the way you set up a goal is by having a thank you page for, let's say, for somebody who sets up an appointment. They set up an appointment. After they set up the appointment, they get a thank you page. So then what the goal does in analytics is it counts how many people made it through that to that thank you page, right? Because the only way they're going to find that thank you page is by going through that process. So that is how the system tracks goals for form fill outs, for appointment set, things of that sort. Now for phone calls, it's a little bit different. I should also mention newsletter sign up. So you got a page on your site for people to sign up for your newsletter. Again, have a thank you page. Thank you for signing up for our newsletter. And then we would track that particular page. For phone calls, it's actually an event type instead of just a landing page or a destination. And I'm not going to get into the details on this, but you can track where people are calling from and what phone number they're using to dial in to connect with you there. So the goals is really cool just to start seeing the different information related to your business and how people are engaging with your business. And of course, if you have the pay-per-click ads running as well, you can also set those goals individually. Excuse me. So that is an overview of analytics, and hopefully I've given you guys some good information of things that help you understand a little bit more about the system, how it works. I did want to jump over and show you the GA4 version of this. Let me see if I can find it here. There we go. So Google Analytics 4, which we'll probably be talking about a lot more next year, you'll notice that the left-hand menu is a little bit different. We've still got acquisition, but now we've got one called engagement. So this is probably similar to behavior on the system we just looked at, right? What did people do once they engaged with your business or once they engaged? Monetization. So this is more around the goals and the conversions. How did we get, what did people do, or we got them to do different things? So next year we'll go through this. Like I said, most people are not using this system, so I didn't see any reason to go through it today, but I did want to let you know that that is a system that's out there. And a lot of people are moving over to that as well. All right, let's see if you have any questions, put those into the chat before we finish up here. I want to make sure I get everything answered. I did put together a worksheet for you, and you can get that at bit.ly/GA-WTMP. If you want to kind of go through this and look at some of the really important things for your own business, you can do that by just visiting that link. You'll get a copy of this worksheet, and it kind of shows you what to do, what to go through, and how to find that information as well. If you have any questions, of course, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to help you through that process. A couple free things. I do have my book. If you have not got a copy of my book, Triple Your Window Treatment and Awning Leads, make sure that you get a copy of this. You can just go to our website and request one. I will get one in the mail to you as soon as possible, probably within the next couple of days, and we'll get that out to you. And then if you do want some keywords, I put some pages together on our website. There's no opt-in. You don't have to put your email address or anything like that. WTMarketingpros.com/keywords. We have keywords, the top keywords out there for window treatment companies, top keywords out there for awning companies. And we also have the top keywords out there for sign installation companies or signage companies. So you can go grab those. There's like the top, 50, 80, something like that keywords out there, which are the ones that you really need to kind of focus on. So go grab those, WTMarketingpros.com/keywords. And then lastly, you saw how many people were visiting our strategy session page. If you want to put a strategy session together for your business and just kind of go through some things, look at your website from an SEO standpoint and learn a little bit more about your landscape and how we could help you with that. I'd love to have an opportunity to talk to you about that. WTMarketingpros.com/strategy is how to get to that. And that's it. Thank you. I really appreciate you guys jumping on today. If you have any questions, feel free to visit our website, WTMarketingpros.com, or give me a call, 314-470-1180. And that is a call tracking number. So I'll know where that call came from, how you found me, and some other really cool stuff. So thank you, everyone. Hope you have a fantastic day. Take care. See you later.